Welcome back, my rogues. Today's question is history buffs of Reddit. What are some fun TL doctors of historical events? Hope you enjoy, and check me out on Instagram. Hitler, Mussolini, and Stalin were all nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. The Wars of the Roses is basically just two families angry with each other, resulting in the extinction of both families' male lines. Lol. Asshole leader starts to get a little bit too powerful for his colleagues' liking. Gets stabbed 23 times. Man runs 26.2 miles and outruns the best ships in the world while doing so to warn the capital of a mind-bogglingly in-depth country about said ships. Dies after giving the warning like the mad lad he was. One of the most popular exhibits at the 1851 World Fair in London were the flushing pay toilets. A British dude and a French dude make an agreement over Iraq, and a century later some other dudes fly planes into buildings. Taking back the Holy Land was too hard, so we sent a plethora of children. They never arrived at Jerusalem or came back. Edit, put a fancy word in 3. They taxed us, so we fucking threw their tea in the ocean. Man got rejected from art school and 80 million people died as a result. Dude ate a bat and now I'm overworked. A bitch got decapitated over some cake. Edit, even though I have a top answer on this question, I still see myself as the real loser of this comment section. Thanks for the upvotes though. Edit, okay, should I just fucking delete this comment? Y'all keep saying him wrong, but there are 10 of y'all saying 10 different things about each point I said. This shit wasn't even supposed to be taken that serious. English king may or may not have been mentally unstable after a jousting fail, which resulted in him divorcing by beheading, becoming the head of his own church, beheading some advisors and getting incredibly plump, while beheading more nobles. All of Russian history, and then things got worse. And then the winged hussars arrived. 90 years later Poland was no more. Spiked dog collars were invented in ancient Greece and were originally designed to protect the dog's throat from wolf attacks. Farmers kept both sheepdogs and farm dogs as guards for their assets. The dogs were given leather collar called melium, which was studded with nails. This is so that in the event of a wolf attack, their necks would be protected while they defended the sheep. The Greeks preferred to have their farm dogs dark so that they would be difficult to spot in the dark, whereas the sheepdogs had to be white. Random Jew starts doing magic and is killed and then comes back. Edit, thanks for gold, stranger. A Serbian man shot an Austrian prince, directly causing a devastating war and indirectly causing a communist revolution, a second devastating war, and a Cold War that could have wiped everything off the earth. Foo Fighters lead singer Dave Grohl was the drummer from the band Nirvana. Now that we're doing this whole communism thing, let's throw away our 3,000-year-old culture and melt all our nice steel tools into useless pig iron in backyard kilns. Mass starvation intensifies. The world would be very different today if there was no Genghis Khan. Mustache man hates race. He tries to kill race, ends up killing himself. In the War of 1812 that Americans retreated from DC, the British entered, held a mock vote to burn the Senate chambers, burned the White House and other buildings. A crazy storm came up, wind and rain out the fires, and the storm decimated British troops. Egyptian queen gets funky with Roman generals. Hilarity ensues. Explodey rock hitting our rock killed big lizards. Jesus' brother showed up in 19th century China, gathered millions of followers, and started the second largest war in history. Horsey archers build boats to invade Japan, thwarted by divine wind. Twice. Just like in the outside world, there will be good people and there will be bad people. Choose your interactions with the right group, and you will enjoy your time. There was a Japanese soldier who defended an island by himself for many years after the conclusion of World War II. Paraguay tries to take on 3 countries at the same time, 2 of which are major powers in South America, backfires horribly and has 80 I think of its male population killed. TLDR, some guys defenestrated the taxman and started one of the most devastating wars ever. Lots of Italians died because no one knew how to address the elephant in the room. Lots of them, actually, because they crossed the Alps. Tanks do not like the cold. In 1904 the Russian Navy through sheer incompetence shot their own ships a bunch. Became a literal zoo, almost started a war with Britain and got themselves blockaded in the same port they were trying to Liberate. They basically lived out a Coen Brothers script. https www.hullwebs.co UK content L20C disaster Dogger Bank Voyager dam.htm. In the 1976 election, the presidents and vice presidents were all losers in a presidential race. Ford, Carter, Mondale, and Dole. A couple of bohemian nobles get into an argument over what flavor of Christianity is best for their realms. One thing leads to another, and next thing you know, a third of the German population has been wiped out and Sweden is a superpower. 100 Years' War. France was losing to England until a schizophrenic French girl joined the game. The Punic Wars, especially the second one, I don't know, where Hannibal went across all of Spain and the Alps, only to crush the superior Roman forces over and over. I believe in the end he only lost because he ran out of man and because he really lacked support from his home country, which would make a very good political betrayal subplot. Saint Olga avenged her husband by genociding the Drevlians, burns their city with birds. The story of the actual First Crusaders. Weird hermit hears that the Pope wants to hold a crusade to take back the Holy Land, decides to assemble his own army of peasants and leave in April of 1096. Bad idea. They had basically no food, no training, and no damn clue where they were going. Slaughtered a bunch of innocent Jews, and most of them died without getting anywhere near their destination. Santa once punched a guy in the face in 1 AD, not the large fat guy like the Saint Nick. In WW2, a German submarine sunk due to a malfunctioning toilet a few days before WW2 ended. American soldiers joined forces with German soldiers, French prisoners, to defend the castle from an SS assault, aka Battle of Ita Castle. A German city near the Swiss-German border avoided Allied night bombings by pretending to be part of Switzerland. At a night battle in the Pacific War, a Japanese pilot accidentally landed on an American carrier. Because he had mistaken it for his own, Aircats survived 3 sinking ships and was nicknamed Unsinkable. Sam, the US has lost around 50 nukes of different types, and such incidents are referred to as broken arrows. That's all I got for now. There's 2 from the early days of WW2. The last time one boat boarded another boat, pirate style, was during World War II. A British Royal Navy vessel boarded a Nazi Kriegsmarine vessel to rescue the British sailors on board who were captured. It was so out of the ordinary and audacious the Nazis could barely believe it was actually happening. And even after it ended, they noted at length how they couldn't believe that actually just fucking happened. One of them said the British might have been using sabers. The latter comment led to a myth that they were carrying sabers, though there's no record of them carrying anything other than pistols. I think we can all agree it's fun enough as is. Edit: the above incident is called the Altmark incident. The other one is Operation Claymore. The British did a commando raid into Nazi-occupied Norway. In it, they sank 10 Nazi boats and captured over 200 Nazis. The British didn't lose a single guy in the operation. Back in 1877, 2 paleontologists, Edward Drinker Cope and Othniel Charles Marsh, started the Bone Wars, a war that led to the discovery of many dinosaur species we know today. They sabotaged each other multiple times. That the Italians broke the Geneva Convention in the stages before WW2 by chemical bombing Abyssinia with mustard gas. Ginseng was a huge factor in saving the colonies after the Revolutionary War. England was blockading and sending pirates to attack ships going out from American ports to France and Africa. They only could keep ships near land, and the only safe export was to China. Tons of ginseng were placed on the Empress of China from NY port shortly after the war. Many of our forefathers grew harvested ginseng to pay back their debts to France. The US is the 3rd largest exporter of ginseng. Wisconsin is the largest grower of ginseng in the US. The first Asians in the colonies were Chinese and Koreans who helped grow ginseng. The French Revolution. WASNT about the rich vs the poor. Marie Antoinette never suggested anyone should eat cake. Churchill is not a hero. The Americans would have lost their War of Independence without French intervention. Yet they still persist to this day to call the French cowards. Some Greek dude taught some Macedonian dude about stuff. Both of them are famous to this day. Can you guess who they are? Japan had 2 bases in Alaska on Attu and Kiska Islands in the Aleutian with almost 10,000 troops for a year and a half. The US took a year, over 3 million troops and support staff, a fleet of battleships, cruisers, light carriers, subs and destroyers, dozens of flying boats, PBYs and hundreds of bombers and fighters to kick them off. Attu was the first amphibious landing by the US Army and led to better plans for D-Day as a result. All but 8 Japanese soldiers and officers were killed or committed suicide by the time the US war submachine invaded Kiska, Japan snuck a fleet of cargo ships in and evacuated 5,000 troops from the island literally the night before the US landed, passing through a screen of US ships and planes. Hundreds of US soldiers were casualties on Kiska from friendly fire, frostbite and traps left behind, and it was days before they realized they'd escaped. During the campaign, the US side developed tactics which would later become standard, such as a single bombardier leading a formation controlling drops for all planes. The first ever ship battle fought over the horizon by radar targeting where no visual contact was made, the last ever naval battle between capital ships with no air support, and the use of spotter planes over a battle calling out artillery and crucial sites by radio, all of this in some of the worst and coldest weather in the war. The US HQ was in Dutch Harbor, think Deadliest Catch, which had the least of the bad squalls and storms. The Japanese originally planned to use the original attack on Dutch Harbor in 1942 as a feint to draw away US ships and military from the battles at Midway and Guadalcanal. Once Midway proved to be a disaster, however, they sucked in and strengthened the garrisons. At one point, Commander Genres in charge of the flying boats had them dropping bombs and fucking dive bombing the Japanese bases. They were so good at it, Tokyo Rose called him out and claimed the US had built a secret advanced dive bomber that looked like PBYs. Anyone that's played War Thunder can understand how insane that is. Russo-Japanese War. The Japanese sank the Russian Orient Fleet. The Russians sailed their Baltic Fleet to Japan. The Japanese sank the Russian Baltic Fleet. Born in Finland in 1905 to a family of farmers, learned to shoot at a young age, providing food for his family. He won several shooting competitions when he was in his 20s due to his expert marksmanship. In 1939, the Soviets invaded and began the Winter War. This man answered to the call to protect his country, and became the most prolific sniper in history. He wore all white and ate snow to hide his red. He was called the White Death. They never saw him coming. In a little over 100 days he killed over 500 of the enemy with iron sights. More if you count the ones killed by submachine gun. Not only was he a great shot, he was one of the toughest mothers to ever walk the planet. Dude took an exploding round to the face and didn't die. He died a few years shy of being 100 years old. This man was Simo Haya. SN. The rifle he used was the Finnish version of the Mosin Nagant, the rifle used by another of the greatest snipers, Vasily Zaitsev. Maybe it's the rifle that makes the man. Sunlight caused Russian missile warning systems to malfunction. One guy stopped the Russians from launching their nukes at the USA. Copenhagen 1800s. Headmistress of orphanages famous for her progressive views on childcare, molests and kills a kid. Is discovered to be a man. Is discovered to be a hermaphrodite. Has a micro-penis, so is determined to be a man. Gets jail time. Gets out. Marries a woman and becomes a postman. 2 shots were fired. The second one hit. It was a display of political prowess and persuasion. JFK. Head of crime family becomes pope and dies eating a poison apple. Alexandria was founded by knowledge. I purpose that we build our settlement here. But why? We need access to water for our crops. And for trade? No. Damn you, we don't need water or open fields to grow crops, or access to resources. We will build this city on knowledge. In the ass, and then they're attacked like people because of racism works for any period of time. 7 Years' War. Russia inches away from defeating Prussia and ending war. Prussian fanboy Peter ascends to throne. Peter signs peace treaty with Prussia for shiny medal, taking Russia out of war. Prussia wins war.
Hope you liked this video. Stay frosty, my rebels.